Hello and welcome to Future Procurement. My name is Robert Freeman, and this week we are talking once again to Agnieszka Piatkowska. Hello, Agnieszka.
Hello, Robert.
And Agnieszka is a very special guest, and once again to mention to you, dear listeners, that Agnieszka is a specialized headhunter who is working with procurement and supply chain, and also Agnieszka is a career coach. So we have already recorded once a great interview, and we decided together with Agnieszka that unfortunately we couldn't fill everything in one podcast episode, so we decided to run one more episode where we will dig into some more questions, right, Agnieszka?
Sure, of course, yes.
Saying this, I would prefer to jump directly into the questions because we have quite some to discuss. So,
of course.
We were talking with you before about the hard skills and soft skills that employers were looking. We were talking about writing a CV, about resume and things like that. But now coming deeper into the question of the thing that is really stressful for all of us, or at least for me, it's about interviews and procurement interviews. Can you say the good examples of interview questions and maybe answers for procurement professionals when they are having interview?
Yes, well, actually, I would like to say that the important thing is to remember for the procurement professionals and for the people who are actually changing jobs, that interview is an interview. It's not an interrogation. Okay, so it should be a discussion. Of course, the interviewer is asking questions and, trying to engage the second party, but still you have a right to ask your own questions, and it's even very much welcomed because you are also making a decision if you would like to join the company. So I think it's very important to remember also for the procurement managers or HR managers who are interviewing that this is like a two-way street. It's not like we are in power as interviewers. It should be, first of all, a discussion, and also the other party has a right to judge us as an interviewer and our organization, and also make a decision if he or she would like to join to the organization. So we are having a talent shortage at the market, not only probably in Poland, but all around. And people are, free to choose. So I totally understand that interviews are stressful. For example, for me, right now you are interviewing me, and I feel a little bit of stress. But to be honest, I totally understand that interviews are stressful. But you have to remember as a candidate that this is also you can also judge the second party. So this is one thing. Another thing, when you asked about the questions, well, the questions, I would say, as I mentioned before, I made a list of potential questions that could be asked during the interview, but it's always like that, we have a job description, and this is our, I would say, the landmark. So having this job description and knowing what the client really wants, then I, or let's say the hiring manager, can shape the important questions. Yes. Anyhow, for me, the most important is to actually really understand, I would say, the whole experience of the candidate, because I need to, in a way, judge if the candidate is mature enough for the position or, let's say, not, and what kind of skills gaps, because it's not always like that you are 100% candidate for the job, okay? You might have some skills gaps, and it's okay, because there might be some enthusiasm to join the new employer and to actually shape your skills to learn something more. So that's normal. But my goal is to see if the gap isn't too big. On the other hand, but on the other hand, I have I'm working in the name of my clients, so I also need to discuss with them, depending on the profiles we have, if, for example, they are ready to take a risk in some situations, and to, for example, onboard a person who is not that much ready for this position, and but let's say the attitude is brilliant, yes, and somebody is really motivated, because in many cases it's also about the motivation, yes. But if you wish that, well, I could give you some examples of the questions, of course. So maybe because in many cases at the beginning I'm kind of talking and assessing, let's say, the hard skills. This is because this is something like the basic that I should know, and later on during the interview or even once we are talking about let's say the experience and hard skills, it's like during this conversation I'm also asking about soft skills or certain situations that the candidate faced and how he reacted. But to assess I would say this experience, I'm asking mostly at the beginning. I'm asking to the candidate to tell me about the procurement department structure and the reporting lines. This is important for me because I need to know if it was a matrix reporting or not, if it was local, if it was international, global. And here, for example, you may laugh, but in some organizations, people are saying, I'm working globally. And then I'm asking, okay, what does it mean globally? And he's saying, okay, well, there are 4 plants in Europe, yes. So I'm saying, okay, so, it's not actually global, yes. So, but on the other hand, these are the organizations who are putting some big names on, let's say, positions that are regional, yes. So I would like to understand the structure. Then I would like to understand the KPIs, and not only what were your KPIs, but how did you achieve them? Yeah, so this is really quite important for me, because if in many cases, of course, it is savings. Yes, saving generations, and I'm asking, okay, what was the level? What is the level? And how did you achieve that? And if somebody is telling me I achieved that via negotiations and nothing else, then I know that, okay, maybe this person is not, I would say, strategic enough for the role I'm looking for. In the case, yes. So stuff like that. I always encourage the candidates to prepare themselves and to be really ready to talk about the achievements, and mostly about the KPIs, but the ways to achieving them. Yes, this is quite important, because it shows the knowledge and how good is the experience actually. Then I'm asking about the category management, for example. So I'm asking the question like, walk me through any category that you manage, and please provide the most important data about the category. So this is quite important for me, because it's a question. It's not a tricky question, but still, I can judge how this person is. What is the business acumen of this person, is how this person is talking about this category. So because I don't know if you remember, but we talked last time about this like business acumen as a skill, and it is possible to assess it somehow. Because if somebody is saying me, okay, so what kind of data would you give me? Yes, are you going to give me some hard data, some hard numbers, some information, I don't know, some kind of analysis of your supply base, and is it deep or not deep? And then I can ask many additional questions when this person is providing me this information. So it could be like that one question is asked, but there are another 15 questions to this one big question, and then I am really able to judge, let's say, the experiences and its level. So this kind of questions also I'm going through the KPIs of the suppliers, for example, if the candidate was conducting any suppliers performance reviews. Also, if the candidate has an experience in suppliers risk management, if yes, how this was, conducted, what are the challenges with the suppliers. Also, many questions about supply base. Also, then stakeholders management. I like to ask this question like, rate your stakeholders management skills from 1 to 10 and provide me with an example that supports this choice. Yes.
This is a provocative question.
I know, but I'm really open during the interview, and if somebody is really stressed, and I'm saying, okay, just tell me, why do you feel that? Okay, what did you do to improve it? What kind of difficult situation you had with stakeholder, and why? Yes, why do you think it's that? Yes, and it might seem that these questions are difficult, but it's also up to me how I ask them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And but I also encourage the listeners to go through the list that I made, actually. But this is just
what
a part of
it. This list of questions, or?
Yeah, the list of questions, because I actually, wrote this article where I actually listed something about 30 examples of questions that might be asked to the buyers and procurement managers. And I think it could be interesting to go through, in my opinion, of course. But on the other hand, the last thing you asked me is, what is the good answer? There is no good answer, yes. It just, you need to tell about your experience, and that's it. Don't think about, how to answer the question so that somebody would, like me or assess me better. It's just not possible, to be honest.
Can I give one example when I say what is a good answer? You say about the KPIs, for example. How deep should I go into that? How detailed I should be? Or because for me, being maybe a little bit more empathetic than average, if I may describe myself like this, I would put myself in the position of HR person and try to explain. Sorry that I maybe underestimate your procurement knowledge or something, but for me, I would still perceive you not as a procurement professional. So maybe I will not go so deep into the details or like specific KPIs, but maybe I will describe on a general level. For example, I'm measuring the price development, I'm measuring the availability on shelf availability, some cost of poor quality, but I will not maybe go into very depth and say how big it was or what is a target or things like that, how do we measure it and things like that. From the other hand, maybe there will be some people who are more like to the details, and they will start to describe to you how do they maybe with the formulas, how do they calculate, for example, ongoing price development with a lot of details. On which level is the best to answer in this case?
I think you go from general to detail, but still, in my opinion, this is the best. But still, without underestimation that the interviewer doesn't know what he is talking about. Well, to give you an example, I'm asking, okay, what are your general KPIs? And if somebody is saying, what do you mean? So I'm saying, okay, is it like savings level achievement? Yes. So tell me, what is the percentage that you need to bring? And he's saying 3%. And I'm saying, okay, on every category, or let's say if he's managing 3 categories, okay, or maybe indirect that are in indirect materials, you have, 5 subcategories. And I'm asking, are you evaluated, is the savings evaluated basing on the whole, let's say, categories that you manage, or you need to, or it's like a few percent per each category, yes? And then do you report cost avoidance, for example, when it comes to savings? Yes, I'm not maybe asking about, direct formulas, because it doesn't give me a lot. I would like to just understand. And on the other hand, Okay, savings is one, yes, but maybe in some cases the candidates have downsizing the supply base, yes. So then I'm asking, okay, so what was once you started, how big was the supply base, and what is the current number, and how did you do it? How did you do it? Yes. So maybe not very, very, in much details as you mentioned, but still like not too general. Yes, not too general.
But still, I like your approach. I think it's a great advice. You start from the if you hesitate, like I have just described, you start from a big picture, come into the details little by little, and then probably you will see on the interviewer. And also for interviewer, probably for experienced interviewer like you, as you described, you feel if the person understands the topic or interesting.
And also what I would like to also tell you, what is important once, for example, somebody is replying to the question, like you said, let's say about this KPIs, and you are starting from the general, and then you can always, because this is an interview, but still this is a kind of a discussion, so you can always as a candidate ask, do you think you need more information, or shall I go deeper into that subject, or is it okay for you right now? Yes, and not, stop and wait for the answer, because sometimes, and in many cases, you have the Skype interviews or phone interviews when you don't see the person.
And I also, what I would take from beginning of your answer, that it's good to ask questions, and that it's not only interviewer who is asking the question, but also interviewee can ask questions, and in this case probably also you can clarify. It's no problem to clarify, and it's also to have a courage to ask questions in return, maybe clarifying questions is good.
Of course, yeah. So this is what I strongly recommend.
Good. Maybe to close the topic about interviews and typical interviews, let's say, you said about questions, and we again remind the listeners that we will share these many questions that you sent to your interviewees. Yes, we will share them in the show notes. Please go there and collect them. But say me in a few maybe bullet points, how does a typical interview look like? If you can just like describe it in the big bullet points.
Okay, so what I do is like first, once somebody is interested in the job, in the job description that I sent, I always send an additional document that gives more details about the position itself, about the goals, about current situation and challenges. And these are this additional information that I gather from the client, and it's really quite important for me that the candidate would read it, but sometimes they don't. But okay, let's say in ideal world that they read it, and I'm always asking at the beginning, okay, do you have any additional questions to the job, to the role, and anything that I can help you with, better understanding? And then sometimes they ask, sometimes not, but still I give a little bit of the summary, and provide the bullet points of the most important skills and the situation. And then I'm saying that, okay, listen, so during I would like to go through your experience mainly, and I would like to only, let's say, tackle the experience that is, in my opinion, the closest to the requirements of the job. So, relevant, because sometimes I have, candidates whose first years of experience were not that much in line with this kind of procurement or whatever. So I'm just skipping it. Yes, I'm actually really putting emphasis on the ones that are the most relevant, and we go through the experience bit by bit. So we are starting from the current position or the latest position, and I'm asking the questions. Okay, tell me about how this how the procurement is functioning in the organization. Your reporting line, your category, your suppliers, your relationships with your stakeholders, challenges, KPIs, success stories, and then we are going bit by bit. And I would say that's it, yes. But and in most cases, so I'm mostly focusing on what the person really did. Of course, at the end or even at the beginning, once I'm summarizing the position, I'm asking about the motivation, yes, to take over this position. Because this is quite important for me. I would like to understand if this position would align with the career plan of the person or not.
Interesting.
And of course, we are discussing the money, and I'm actually the one who is discussing the money at the very beginning.
Okay. So can you say a good behavior when the interviewer is asking what is your salary expectation?
Well, the good answer is, just provide me a number, yes, but the best would be if this would be like the number from 2. Because, so like, I don't know, from 10,000 to 12,000 zlotys per month, let's say, yes. Because if somebody is giving me something like precise number, like, okay. 10,000, then I'm wondering, okay, and I'm asking, well, I'm actually very open during the interview, so I'm asking, okay, and what it would be if, for example, the client would have 9,800, yes, would you still go for it? And if it would be 11,000, it's funny because I think that it's good to give, this from to, let's say, this limits in a way, so that I would know more or less if it meets the budget of my client, yes. And also I'm asking about, if the candidate has any additional expectations. It could be a bonus, it could be a car, it could be, I don't know, some additional package, and what is it inside, or what he already have, what he would like to keep, what not. Well, of course, everybody would like to keep it, as much as they can, yes. But still, what is important when it comes to salary, because here in Poland you have this, great packages, but sometimes you don't have a great package, but still the basic salary is quite high. So, it's just a matter of who wants what, yeah.
Interesting. But also for you, dear listeners, prepare to this question, what is your salary expectation, and prepare to the question about maybe additional benefits. It's not only about the salary. All right, Agnieszka, I know that you very soon need to have the interview when you will interview people.
Yes.
Yes, we were talking about that. But before we say goodbye, can you give some hints for our listeners? What can they do here and now to be more successful in their career? What is short actions that they can really take here and now?
It's not that easy question, to be honest, because it still depends a lot on the organization itself and the procurement maturity model they are in. Anyhow, I believe that it is very important for the procurement professionals to understand how and if their goals correspond to the goals of their stakeholders. And I think that it might be very crucial for example, for indirect procurement. And just to give an example, during the interview, I like also to ask the question, what happens to your savings? So I would like to know basically how the internal stakeholder benefits from the savings you make. And in many cases I receive an honest answers, I don't know. And really, in fact, what I discovered is that in some organizations, the goals of internal stakeholders are not in line with the procurement ones. Like, for example, some marketing guy might say, I don't care about your savings to the procurement professional, and in fact I don't want them because next year they will cut my budget.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Really, sometimes it is like that. So in my opinion, it is really important for the procurement professionals to know if the goal is common, or even if it's not the common goal and it's not framed in the KPI, they still need to know what is the real situation, in procurement, and what is my actually my position and maybe not my power, but still my position in the company. So also what is important is that they still need to remember that it is a service department, and they need to provide the quite high quality customer care, and they need to understand the stakeholders' needs, and they need to take the procurement problem out of their shoulders, yes, and not to cause more problems with process systems or tools that nobody wants to use. But at the end, I would like to say that I really like procurement professionals and I really like this role, and I enjoy to work with my candidates and my clients, and I feel that many procurement professionals see the improvement opportunities and they know what could work better. But sometimes because of a number of different reasons, like they just cannot make more value, and it might be, because I don't know, nobody listens to them. They don't have a support from higher management, or they just fed up with trying, or the organization is not ready for changes, or the boss is a psycho. So actually, it could be like that, But I believe that if you are facing this kind of situation, if you are a procurement professional and facing this kind of situation, when you tried many times but you failed because of others, then this is a very clear sign for you to change the job.
And this, I think this is a good outcome of this talk with the HR specialist for procurement, and I think this is also a really, really powerful advice. So once again, here and now, align your goals with the stakeholders in the organization, understand if you and them are going in the same direction. And the big idea from Agnieszka Piatkowska today is to think about if you are on the right place in your organization, right?
Definitely, yes.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. On this point, I would say a big thank you for these 2 episodes. Really valuable advice that you have given. And once again, for everybody, please check those 30 questions for Procurement Professionals interview. From Agnieszka Piatkowska. Thank you very much, Agnieszka.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Robert. It was a pleasure.
And I thank you, dear listeners, for being with us until the very end of this podcast episode. As always, you are more than welcome to ask questions and share your ideas with us. We'll be happy to hear from you in LinkedIn, in Facebook, Twitter, or maybe by email info@futureprocurement.net. And of course, download the bonus materials from Agnieszka Piatkowska, which are in the show notes in the description of this podcast episode. We're happy to have you with us, so subscribe to this podcast not to miss another show. My name is Robert Freeman, and this was Future Procurement. We talk to you soon.